Talking about why we chose the collaborative and why we continue to work with the collaborative. I think a lot of firms might say those are the same question, but they're not. Everyone has compelling marketing literature these days, but the proof is really in the pudding in terms of a relationship that you have with a consulting and training firm. And one of the things that's strongest for us in evaluating our relationship with the collaborative and why we continue to hire them again and again is because we find the process is a very synthetic process, that what we might do in a DISC assessment, what we might do in sales training, what we might do in a brand awareness study, what we might do in internal or external communications, or follow up on our client relations and follow up on other things that we use them to evaluate, is that these work across all these practice areas within the firm. So we don't have to call them for one pigeonhole type of project and not another. And after a while, using them, we're all speaking the same language, we're all speaking the same Latin. We all understand these issues and we don't have to read. Netage Solutions, first of all, is a company that sells to a very sophisticated audience, specifically to alternative asset managers. And these managers are across not only the United States but the world. We have to adapt to a sophisticated audience across many markets geographically, and many different people in the audiences of those companies, from CFOs, CEOs, end users, technical people, CTOs. So we have to be able to talk to many different types of people within an organization. We've used the collaborative because not only is our market very sophisticated, we've used the collaborative because it's a very competitive marketplace. We make a software application that is technically called CRM, or Client Relationship Management Software, but actually it deals with very specific workflows that our clients use in venture capital, hedge funds, fund of funds, real estate, institutions, prime brokerage, etc. So we have to know those markets intimately, and we have to be able to apply what our software does to the needs of. I found out early on is that methodology is key for success in this space. It helps us differentiate ourselves, and it also helps us work together better as a team. If we don't work together as a team, with the number of deals that we work on, the number of clients we have, the number of specific needs they have, we can easily trip over ourselves, and we can't deliver a solution for company A that's more appropriate for company B, because our software is so highly configurable and the needs of our clients are so highly customized. The first area that I started to use the collaborative was in simple sales methodology, namely in behavioral selling. How can the team that I manage adapt to the needs of the audiences that they're selling to? This is a huge thing for sales managers, as I'm sure any sales manager listening would agree, in that you can't just come up with a template or a script and use that again and again in a repeatable way. If you've ever heard a telemarketer call you, it's one of the most frustrating things in the world when they're not speaking your language, they're not speaking to you, they're not speaking about your pain and your needs. And not only that, they may not be speaking to you about what you care about. And what we learned through behavioral selling is that people have different styles of communicating. A technical or a financial officer of a company may want to receive information in a spreadsheet, whereas somebody involved with investor relations may want to talk for an hour about something and whiteboard it and become very communicative in a very different way. A CEO might want to get down immediately to what's the ROI for me, what's my return. An end user of the application wouldn't care about that. The end user is thinking, how do I get home earlier? So what the collaborative has helped us do, and what the behavioral selling has helped us do, is figure out how to speak to each constituent audience in a way that they understand, and more importantly, that they want to be spoken to in, not to end on a preposition. When you start the sales process, most people don't think about this, but you really are starting with the raw materials that you have, which are the salespeople. One of the most valuable things that we found is that the DISC system allows us to solve for the different personality or communication types that we have, so that we know what we're working with and we know where that person needs to be trained or helped or focused to make them successful. Because let's face it, we all come with different skill sets. Nobody's perfect, and in fact some of the imperfections or weaknesses someone has in a communication style might be seen as strengths by somebody that matches with that. So what I think is a strength or weakness doesn't necessarily mean that that is empirically the way it is across the world. And I'll give you a couple examples of what I mean. When I get a DISC report on a new candidate and we ask all of our applicants who come here for a job, whether it's in sales, marketing, client service. Heck, even our CEO took DISC, which, thank goodness for me, now I know how to communicate with him. Before, I just walk in his office and he'd throw cups at me, but by using DISC, I now know to duck, and no, I'm just kidding about that, but by using DISC, I now know the information that he wants in a meeting, whereas somebody else might want very different information. And my reps have that information about me when we do a weekly activity review. They know what I'm going to ask them, rather than it being some sort of roll the dice, I hope this works. I had one candidate that came here several years ago that had a great background, that worked for a top company, was very well regarded in the space, knew the vertical that he would be selling in, had the industry experience, but had been much more of a farmer or relational type of salesperson. And the analysis that I got from the collaborative showed me that he would need to work on more proactive skills in order to bring deals to close. In his last job, he was really more of a caretaker, making sure people were getting what they needed, but they were in general existing clients. Here at Netage, where the focus is on building new business, this person really wasn't as used to being that proactive in the sales process. So one of the things that I really like about DISC is that it helps me construct a specific job description for each person that goes beyond the templates that you get from HR. Not that we have an HR department, but having worked in places that have HR departments, you know what those templates are like. They're platitudinal, and after a while they're just saying bulleted things that everybody would want to have in somebody. So we solved for that at the beginning, and the great thing about DISC is that instead of seeing these things as potential weaknesses that the person wasn't doing and then denigrating that person or correcting that person, we're able to solve for those things immediately and start working on them and saying, let's turn these things into strengths and let's focus on them, rather than starting out on the wrong foot and saying, hey, you're already behind the 8 ball, you're not doing what we want. And that was a fantastic thing. I hired the collaborative about 4 years ago for our national sales conference, which consists of everyone in this office, but we still call it national, to come together and actually work on tactics and strategies for managing territories, for planning and for setting objectives. We received a very thorough template from the collaborative, which had a territory plan outline so that each rep could absorb it and write their own plan as if they were a business manager, as if they were an entrepreneur, which is a style that I like. In fact, I encourage all of my salespeople to think of themselves as entrepreneurs, and that the territory that they have, managing a territory should be a fun thing. Managing a territory should be something that is empowering to the reps. And this is one of the great lessons I think we got from the collaborative, that it actually is that type of process rather than something that's drudgery or something that's filling out forms or something that's prosaic in nature. It's actually not. I hired the collaborative to do a very in-depth marketing and branding assessment of our company, whereby they interviewed clients, the few lost clients that we have, prospects, and we looked at what is the company, what is the message, what is the product, what are specifically the competitive advantages that we offer that make us unique in the marketplace to those audiences. And they use something called a so what process, which I think is, in my memory, something that they got from Miles Davis, kind of Blue Album. And this has been a wonderful process. It's all connected, and it all goes back to those very first brand awareness and brand research initiatives that we did with the collaborative years ago, still echoing today in everything we do. And that's why the collaborative is really part of the fabric of this company. We may not speak every day, but the work that they've done is apparent.